Okay, this episode may not sound like a polished sermon. It's going to feel more like a coming out. But that's exactly what I feel I need to say in this very first episode of Worship Well. Okay, this episode may not sound like a polished sermon or perfectly structured lecture. It's going to feel more like a coming out, but that's exactly what I feel I need to say in this very first episode of Worship Well. Together with my husband, we started this YouTube channel, Deep Duo, to share with the world what's in our hearts. We are Christians, full-time ministers, and musicians. More than that, we are artists. At least that's what my diploma says. I am an artist. And for years, that's how I understood myself. An artist, a musician. Music was art. And art is beautiful. But art can also easily slip into entertainment. That's what music was for me. When I grew up in the Soviet Union, I grew up as an atheist musician. I play violin, I play piano, I sing, but I never knew the Lord. Since I was a baby, I lived in my own world. I did not know it at the time, but I was autistic. I did not know the word. In the Soviet Union, nobody talked about it. There was no language for it. I just knew I was different. I spent most of my childhood alone, buried in books, hiding in libraries, sitting quietly while other kids played outside. I avoided bright lights, loud sounds, big crowds. All of those, they overwhelmed me. I masked it. I tried to appear normal. I carried childhood trauma on the top of it. So by every measure, I was not the perfect choice for what God was about to ask me to do. But here is a paradox. God called me to be a worship leader, to be a worship pastor and a worship mentor, to stand under bright projectors, to record albums in loud studios with choirs and full bands, to lead worship in conferences filled with thousands of people clapping and shouting. Exactly the environments that drained me were the very places God sent me for decades. At 22, I encountered Christ for the first time. Worship music became more than sound for me. It became my lifeline. It helped me to live a Christian life, build values, shape my character. Music was no longer just art for me. It was worship. It reflected my spirit, my faith, my inner world. Worship transformed me from the inside out. That's why I poured myself into it. I translated worship songs, more than 500 of those from English into Russian and Ukrainian. I wrote my own and recorded 27 albums for children, for teenagers, for youth, for adults. And through it all, I discovered one truth. God does not use perfect stones to build his church. He used cracked, worn ones. People like me, people like you. You see, it's not easy for me even to speak properly. And that's why I wrote my new song called Cracked, Worn Stones. The lyric says, God is not looking for perfect souls. He is building his church with cracked, worn stones. I am one of them. And that's my story. I was cracked. I was worn. I wasn't the obvious choice. Yet in God's hands, my life became an instrument. Worship was not entertainment for me or art. It was transformation.
When I question if you truly chose me, when I'm silent when I should speak boldly, I whisper prayer through trembling lips. Lord, are you sure I'm made for this? Your gentle spirit calms my heart, reminds me I'm set apart, not by power, not by might. Christ is the rock on which I stand. I'm just a stone in his mighty plan. When I let him down, he lifts me up. When I run in fear, he holds my heart. He doesn't look for flawless souls. He built his church with cracked, worn stone.
But today, worship is facing a crisis. In much of the Christian industry, worship has been reduced to entertainment. I'm not trying to judge, but I'm just observing the facts. Artists are celebrated for their talent even when their private lives are collapsing. Songs are streamed, charts are topped, but the message is disconnected from the lifestyle of the same worshippers who are singing it. And the next generation sees it. Generation Z and Generation Alpha, they can spot the gap between performance and authenticity. They know when it's real and they know when it's just another show. And if we don't address it, they will grow up thinking worship is just another genre or another concert or another playlist. And this is not a new idea. Let me remind you of Asaph. King David appointed him as a worship leader, mentor, and even a prophet in the temple. Asaph wrote 12 psalms in the Bible. If you read them, you see he struggled. He wrestled with what he saw in the world. He asked hard questions. He was honest about his doubts. And when you read the Bible, you can see his psalms are there. And they're very, very modern in a sense. But even in his questions, Asaph, he stayed faithful. His songs were not entertainment. They were an overflow of his life, his beliefs, his honest attitude before God. He worshipped not only with music, but with his mind, his heart, his soul, his entire being.
Worship comes easy on the mountain, but in the valley my voice won't rise. Honest and true to all my feelings, yet praise in suffering is my sacrifice. Hallelujah is my praise, hallelujah is my cry, hallelujah is the echo rising up into the sky. Hallelujah is my joy, hallelujah is my stand, hallelujah is the banner in my tired, trembling hand. Hallelujah, hallelujah, I declare, I proclaim, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
In Psalm 78, verse 6, Asaph writes that we are responsible for teaching our children and our grandchildren how to worship God. I have 5 grandkids, so I need to teach them how to carry their relationship with Him and how to walk in His ways. Worship is not just about us anymore. It's generational. It's a legacy. It's path we leave behind for those who come after us. That's why I wrote a song inspired by Asaph, which will be released soon on Sing Worship YouTube channel, because he shows us that worship is not about perfect circumstances or easy faith. It's about honesty, integrity, and passing on truth to the next generation. And that's the call I feel today, to raise up a generation of true worshipers, to show young people, Generation Z or Generation Alpha that worship is not about applause or platform. It's about a life aligned with God. It's about music that flows from the heart surrendered, not from the industry machine. Even now, when I create, I use AI. But let me be clear, AI is not the source of worship. AI cannot replace the Bible, the Spirit of God, or the human heart. AI is just an instrument, just like a guitar or microphone or studio. It helps us deliver worship, but it cannot define worship. True worship comes from the heart. It is still come from your soul, from the Spirit of God, from a life aligned with God's truth. So here is my vision for this first Worship Well episode. Worship must be redefined for the next generation. Worship is not the stage. Worship is not the streams. Worship is not the applause. Worship is when your whole life becomes a song to God. Think about it. When your cracked, worn life, your failures, your struggles, your story becomes a testimony in His hands. That's what worship is. Art entertains. Worship transforms. And the world does not need more entertainment. It needs transformation.